Hey there, Stuart Rice. Uh, I do a couple different things, but one of the things I did do is I recently wrote a book called The Sales Book for People Who Hate Sales. Now, I love this book. I think it's wonderful, but the problem is it's really big. It's over 300 pages, and a lot of times when people see over 300 pages and it's not a Dean Koontz or a Stephen King or I don't know, name another best-selling author, they tend to shy away from it. Now, what's cool about the book is there's all sorts of exercises in it. I mean, it's pretty cool. It's pretty comprehensive. And if you want to become a salesperson, this is a great place to start. It's expensive for a paperback book because it's so big. It's 49.99, but it's got 25 years worth of experience in it. So if you were to go to college for 25 years, you'd spend a heck of a lot more than $50. Anyway, that's that. But I realized like not everybody wants to read a book like this or go through a book like this or even needs all of this information. So instead, what I did was I broke out a lot of this information into something called a Your Simple Guide. Now, Your Simple Guide is not intimidating. It's very short and it's part of the Your Simple Guide business series. Now, this one is Your Simple Guide to Creating Great Rapport. Now, the reason I put this one together is because this is the number one subject I get asked about from business owners, the number one question I get asked from salespeople, from anybody I talk to. This is the number one thing I get asked is how do you build good rapport? Now, the nice thing about this book is if you read it, the big selling point is you can finish it in about an hour. An hour. So I thought what I would do is I would just really quickly read something out of here so that you can kind of get an idea of what's in the book. So one of the things that you can do to build rapport is not so much, a lot of it's going to be about listening. So the 2 ears, one mouth, yeah, it's lame, but it actually does work. But one of the things that I think really hurts people most of the time when they're trying to build rapport is when people ask questions and you do not have a reply. And one of the big reasons that people have a big issue is because when they get asked, like, what is it that you do? Or here, who are you? Like, that's a really good question. Who are you? I mean, the who asked that. The who asked, who are you? Um, but here's one I can really relate with is when you're talking to someone and they're asking you questions. One of the questions they can ask is, well, when can you get me results? Or when can you make delivery? Or whatever. So when you're answering this question, if you don't have a good answer, the problem is you only get one opportunity to answer that question properly. And if you miss it, you're done. Like most of the time, they're moving on to the next thing. So when can you get me results? All right. So a customer might be impressed with your credentials because we've already built some of that rapport already. But still, if it takes a couple of months to get results and they're expecting a couple of weeks, they're not going to be happy. So you have to be honest, but you have to be compelling. So there's two ways to look at this. And this looks at both different ways you can answer this question. So for products, we need to quote a realistic time frame. If longer than a week, we need to plan on updating the customer regularly. We will talk about that later in the book. What is the lead time on your product, worst case scenario? And that's your estimated arrival time. And how often can you give updates? Those are your updates. So your statement back to the customer, back to whomever you're talking to, your client, whatever, should be something similar to the latest we would expect your purchase to arrive is estimated arrival. So if it was 5 weeks, then it would be the worst case scenario is 5 weeks. However, we can sometimes find ways to expedite it. I can let you know on an update basis to let you know where things are at. So if it's a weekly basis, if it's a daily basis, so if it's a weekly basis and you're 5 weeks out, I think that's totally fine. If it's 4 days out and it's a weekly basis, that doesn't work. It might be more daily. It really depends on what the customer's looking for. And they'll let you know if that's not good enough. So that's if you're selling a product. Now, I get asked all the time, who is this book for? And this book is literally for anybody who's selling anything. If you're an entrepreneur and you're selling swizzle sticks to restaurants, this works. So when you're selling a service or coaching, this changes a little. So, what is the length of your total program or the time to completion? And I'm just going to go ahead and just throw in my answers here. So, in this case, the length is, if you take my sales course for people who hate sales, it's 10 weeks. 10 weeks, 2 hours a week. That's what it is. When do you believe people will start to notice a difference in their situation or in themselves? For me, it is that initial first meeting. Usually by the end of that, there is a light that clicks on, and it's kind of magical to watch people get excited about doing the coaching. So in that case, your statement's going to be more like, to get the full benefit of this course or service, it really takes whatever the length is, 10 weeks. However, I expect that you will start to notice a change as soon as the first meeting. And that lets them know exactly what the situation is. Now, that's just one of really 7 questions you need to be prepared to answer in the introducing yourself section. And what's great is, again, this book, it's an hour to finish. You read it, it's an hour. You can answer the questions in your head. There's even space to be able to answer the questions, but there's some really compelling stuff. I think one of the best parts of this book, if I am going to talk about it myself, is this section right here, which is communication styles. And this was something I developed because people don't necessarily want to hear be talked at. They want to hear something that they want to hear. So what that does is actually help you kind of understand where people might be based on 7 different traits. And it's not about like memorizing everybody's traits. It's just about identifying those things and being able to understand, like, maybe not crack a joke this time. That's something you can learn. Anyway, thanks so much for watching. Hopefully that compels you to go check out the Your Simple Guides. There's a lot of them. There's one for there's the Great Rapport. There's something for conversations. There's for building relationships. So there's a lot of these really great books. These are only $5. If you get the digital version, they're $5. If you get the paperback version, it's $8. But what's nice about the paperback is you can actually write answers in it. All right, thanks. Talk to you later.